afternoon, everybody. I am just getting my connections set and reloading things. We'll see if I can get decided to use my laptop today to look at comments and things, because seriously, it's an issue that I've been having with Facebook. I'm having trouble having my live even load. Hello? Let's see. There I am. Okay, let's get this going here. All right, so sorry it took me a minute. Okay, so today I feel like we're under the gun to make Christmas cards. I know you're probably getting tired of watching me make Christmas cards. I have a lot of other projects I want to do, including some tags and some gifts and some scrapbook layouts and things like that. But for me, I try to get all my Christmas cards into the mail by the end of November, early, like first week in December, and I'm not done making them. I need to do a little work on that. And so today I thought I'd show you kind of a fun card that I've shown you the style before, and I'll show you what I'm going to use. I've been wanting to make some cards using this image right here. Now, the thing about that image is that it is the reason I bought this set. I absolutely love it, and it's big. It's a very big image. It's almost a full-size card image, and that is awesome. Now, you've seen me make a couple of cards using this one. I haven't made anything using this. I haven't used this one at all with the cactus. It's just not my style, but these two certainly are, and this one I just couldn't wait to do. So that's what we're going to start with. The other thing, I want to get pieces cut for my card. I'm going to make two cards, probably pretty identical. What I do is I take an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and I score it at 5.5. And then you have two top folding card bases. Now, most of the time you don't need to make them top folding. You can make them any way you want. But for this card, top folding works fabulous. So I'm just going to get out my little guillotine trimmer. And what I'm going to do is I am going to, actually, let me get out my other trimmer. Hold on. I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. I just have piles of stuff around me is all. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to I'm going to open it up and I'm going to cut an inch and about 1.5 inches off the bottom. Now, if you look at this end, it's at 11. So if I go down to 10, that's 1 inch, 9.5, that will be 1.5 inches. And I'm just going to cut that. You could do 1.25 inches, but I like 1.5 inches. I need to change my blade. And then from this 5.5 inch mark, I want to move it so that I cut 1.5 inches that direction. So we're at 5.5 at the score. I'm going to move it to the left to 6.5. There's 1 inch, and move it to 7, and there's 1.5 inches. Okay, so what I'm left with is this piece that partially folds, and this piece, which, gosh, I need to get out my sander. Anyway, and this will go down here. We'll put a connector right here and the whole thing will open. It's like a split card, okay? I'm gonna do that to the other one too. So let me put this, this is a great batch card. If you like to make batches, this is a great card. So we're at 11, we're gonna move it to 9.5 and cut that piece off, and you will need that piece. And then again, if you move it to that 5.5-inch score mark and move it to the left, we're moving it from 5.5 to 6 and then to 7. And that will give us a 1.5-inch cut from the score. Okay, so we have these pieces right here. There's 2 cards worth. These we will save for another card, put them in our scraps, whatever you want to do with those. Now, the paper, I can't believe I have any of this left. I have been using this to the point, I counted, I have 5 sheets of this left because I saved a few of the little tag pieces. And then I have all these scraps in here that I'm going to use to make tags. And then this pack will be gone, and I've used the whole thing. And it's back in stock, which I was worried this one would not come back in stock before Christmas, which I don't know. They're so crazy. So I had these sheets left, and so I decided what I'd like is, I could have searched through my scraps, but I decided I'm just going to use this as a whole piece. I need to put a little decorative piece on each of these 1.5-inch pieces. So I'm just going to cut this at 4 inches because my card is 4.25. Now I have another scrap. Ask me why I have so many scraps this size. It's because of this. Okay, now I'm gonna rotate this, and then I'm gonna cut 4 pieces that are 1.25 inches. So there's 1.25, and I'm gonna move it, and 1.25, bump that one off, 1.25, bump that one off, and 1.25. And then I end up with one extra little piece that's about 1 inch. That one's a scrap. So now I have my uppers, my up and down strips for those cards. I need, when you open this card up, unless you have white gel pens or whatever, you want to do something on the inside of these cards that's kind of neat. It's going to show through, and I thought that these patterns would look great. I think this would be too busy. I like this. So I'm going to cut this also at 4 inches, and I'm going to cut off this pattern because I can use this for tags. And then I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to cut this at 5.25 because I need it 4 inches by 5.25 inches, and that will go on the inside of our card. This is perfect for that. So we have a 4-inch, and then we're going to rotate, and 5.25. Okay, so all of these pieces that fell off will be in my scrap pile, and I'm gonna make a bunch of tags with those because why not? I think that is all of my trimming I'm gonna do for this project right now. I pre-cut a few things. Okay, so let's prepare our bases. I have 2 cards. I have the strips, the insides, doing this in a batch kind of way, you can easily like just cut all these pieces, have them in a stack, and then glue on all of these pieces. I think I made a total of 8 of these, and I cut all the little parts and pieces to make 8 of these. So now at the top, I cut this 1/4 inch smaller, and you can certainly center it. I'm gonna move it up to the top and leave a little more of a gap at the bottom because my image is gonna cover a lot of that, and I want that pattern paper to show. So I'm gonna put it right here. And you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So this bottom has just a smidge more. I don't know. I just thought putting it a little closer to the top would make it look kind of cool. I'd be able to see it more. All right. Now we have these 2 pieces to do, and you can go ahead and put your pattern piece, and this one I'm gonna put it a little closer to the bottom than the top. Now, do you see the fuzzies? I don't know if you can see that. Oh, there, you can see. I've got fuzzies right there on that because my blade needs replaced. It's kind of annoying. I'm just gonna take a nail file out of my stash and kind of go over that real quick, and that will get rid of, that gets rid of your little fuzzies. It's kind of a weird thing to have to file your paper like that, but it does work, and every time I use that trimmer, I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta remember, change out that blade. All right, hold on just a second here. I got like, all right. So here are my card bases ready to go for my images. The other things that I pre-cut, I went ahead and did some of the holly and berries. I did a few messages, and the messages, I'll show you what they're from. Okay, so the messages are from this pack. It's called Words for the Season, and I really like May the Magic of Christmas fill each corner of your home and heart, or May your holiday season be filled with joy and happiness. All of these are pretty good, really. And so I thought I might use one of the words again, but I decided not to use the words, and instead I used this little red. I used this little banner and I cut it from red, and then I put to you and yours on there using white embossing powder, and that's just one of these messages in the set. So this set I've gotten a lot of use out of because I've been making Christmas cards with this message quite a bit. Okay, the other thing that I'm using, hold on, I pre-cut some arches. So I decided I want my images onto white panel arches, and they'll be on here, but they looked so plain, right? They just looked boring. And so I went ahead and cut a couple of slightly larger sized in crumb cake, and I'm going to put those together, and then that will make our card, right? All right, so that's what we need to work on next, but I want to show you where I got the other pieces. The inside messages, this shape right here, I got from the Branching Out set. You know I've gotten a lot of use out of that one this year. And then this Christmas Greenery set, I love the dies in it. And so I made a bow, I made a couple of holly and berries, and I was like, this will be, I just got out my sets and cut out some pieces to go for it. All right, I'm gonna set those aside for a sec and set my card bases aside for a sec. And we're gonna work on our images because I assembly lined these as well. And one of the ways that I like to do that is with a MISTI. You don't have to use a MISTI, but basically I set it up so that if I put this arch in here, I can stamp my image, and you can see the top of the tree just goes slightly off of there. I think it's perfect. It's gonna look great. I am using black ink that will hold up to whatever coloring medium I want to use. I could do the Versamark, Versafine. You know, you decide. And I'm just gonna, I did it twice because I think my black ink needs a little bit of re-inking. And so you can see how this would be really great for assembly line. Now today I got a little edge on that. Today I am doing colored pencils because I love colored pencils. And let me just clean this off so I don't get ink everywhere. I hate being messy and getting stuff on my cards. I tend to be messy. We're not going to need this stamp anymore, but I am going to use my stamp positioner again. I'll show you how. So I'm just going to slip this back in here. All right, and then that can go back in my pocket. Okay, let's talk about this. I like to use watercolor, but I've been showing a lot of watercolor, and I think that today I'm going to use just plain colored pencils. My favorite plain Jane colored pencils. You can use your watercolor pencils as plain pencils. You don't have to get them wet. Sorry, I needed a drink there. Okay, you don't have to get them wet, but I have some Prismacolors that I've had for years. And basically, I'm just going to, almost every colored pencil I use, I keep an end on it that's a bevel. And the reason I do that is so I can do this. I can really quickly color in images without having scratchy marks from the pencil. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's where I'm starting. I'm going to start by coloring in my deer. Now, even this, I did assembly line. I had like 8 or 9 of these, and I just stamped them all, and then I did all of this brown, and then moved on. Now, if you're like me, you get out of the lines, whatever, don't worry about it. Okay? I'm a fast colorer, but I'm not always a precise colorer. So I'm going to go with a slightly darker color of brown, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to shade the ears. I'm going to shade a few areas on my deer. And the way you shade with regular colored pencils is you press really hard where you want it to be dark, and you would use a light hand where you want it to be light. So there's that. Now I feel like his face is a little red, so I'm gonna just really lightly go over that too. So you can see with one color and with two colors, the difference there. And you can also see, I'm not too precise. I don't think this needs to look perfect coloring wise. And if you're somebody who really loves coloring, you're probably gasping in horror with mine. But honestly, I feel like I can make this look pretty good with not so much time. All right, so there's my first two things. Now I got out my darkest color, which is a dark umber, and I'm gonna go over his antlers. This one, I'm trying to use the sharp end, okay? And these are not watercolor pencils. Watercolor pencils would be much harder to do this technique. You would really have to sharpen them sharp, and I don't like doing that to my pencils very often. The other thing I'm gonna do with this dark umber is I'm going to turn my pencil, see how I'm holding it almost sideways, and I'm shading the bark. This bark could be any color you wanted. I just thought, I'll just use the dark one while I have it. And bark is not all even, so it's okay for it to be a little different. And I wanted it to be a different color than the wood deer. Okay. Now, let's see, what do I have here? I have this like terracotta color, and I also have like a yellowish, it's off-white. It's like an off-white color. Says jasmine, whatever. My idea is I want you know how when you cut wood, it's lighter on the inside, on the cut side, than it is on the bark, right? It's lighter. And so I'm gonna put a real light color over that. And I'm also gonna put a little bit on the cut side of that deer, just a little. It hardly shows. I don't know why I'm bothering. But now I'm gonna take this terracotta kind of reddish brown, and I'm gonna super lightly go over that wood. I could have used a different brown or a different color, but my idea here is just, there's a lot of wood tones. I just want them to look different. And then I'll just go back over any, like if you have any pieces that look like pencil marks, like right there and right there, if you go back over it with that lighter color, it'll fill in and it'll be perfect. See? Great. Ta-da, ta-da. You can tell I'm not perfect coloring. The next color in my lineup is this yellow. I am going to do the flame, and there's no reason to shade that flame. It's a dot of color. And then I have two colors of green. I have a super limey light and then a green. Now I had an option of going an olive tone or a pine tone, and I was going to do that because that's what I normally go for. But I chose this bright garden green because my paper is that bright garden green. Now this tree looks like it would take forever to color, but I just want you to watch me. I'm scribbling and I'm just going up from the center of the tree into the branches. And look at that, half the tree done. And then I'm gonna do the other way. And I'm just scribbling, going up into the branches. This does not, by any stretch, need to be perfect. As a matter of fact, if you get green outside of the branches, it just looks more filled in. right? It's not a big deal. I'm just trying to hit the ends. Like this. So how's everybody else doing out there? Are you guys getting your Christmas cards made? Are you done shopping? Are you starting shopping? What's everybody doing? I'm like, something kicked in this week, and I realized all the Black Friday sales are popping up. Okay, I'm using that darker color, and this time I'm not going all the way out. I'm going from the center out towards some of the branches, but I'm not doing all of them by any stretch. I'm just trying to make the center a little darker. And I want that lighter green to show. I like that lighter green. Yeah, I have like, I don't know. I have much less to buy this year because we decided with my dad and his wife not to exchange gifts. They're on such a limited budget, and we all feel so guilty for, we exchange all these trinkety things, and what we really want is just time together. And so we decided not to exchange gifts this year. So it's really just me, Steve, and Jen, primarily. Okay, so you can see the difference in that tree. It's definitely got more dimension, and that was just scrabbling. I have 4 more colors. I'm going to use red. I decided it needs a pop of red because I have so much red in my paper. And so I'm going to just do really dark on the edges and light in the middle. And I am going to touch this up just a little with a marker. You'll see that in a little bit. And the little holly berries that are on here are so tiny. Look how small they are. Do you see that? Much easier with a marker. I'll show you that. This is a slightly darker red. I'm just going to, I don't even know if this matters, but I'm just going over this a little bit on the edges. Like that. All right, that candle is a problem. I have no idea. I tried like 10 colors and I was like, ugh. I'm gonna go back and do my holly leaves while I'm using my light and my dark green again. But that candle, it's like, gosh, do you pull in a brown, another brown? No, it's got to pop. Do I use a gold? I tried it with gold. What I went with is teals. I decided to go with a light and dark, like super light teal. I'm just gonna go over the whole thing like that. And then the darker teal, I'm gonna go inside the candle like that, and then just a little bit around the edge. Now, one thing about watercolor pencils versus these is that the watercolor pencils are very forgiving. So if you have a little scribble scrabble thing like right there, you could just put a little water on it. Now with these pencils, you'd have to get out your Gamsol to do that. But the other trick is to go back over it with your lighter color, and that helps with that scribble scrabble that I do. All right, so there's that. Now, that's all my pencils I'm going to use today. And then basically, I want to do a little bit of marker, just a couple of dots of marker to highlight this a little. But before I do, I really want to bring in my Magic Color Basic Beige. This is a magic color. I don't know any other way to describe it to you. I'm going to zoom back out again. I'm going to try. I think I've told you before, gadgets don't like my hands. So I'm just going to do a little halo around my image like this. It will dry back just a little. But the idea is to just have a little halo of color around. I'm going to do that to both of these. You can make it as dark or light as you want. Now the other color that would work great for this is a super light gray or blue. Oh, I should have tapped that off a little bit, but that's okay. All right. So there's my halo of color. I don't know what it is about this color. It's got like a little bit of green base in it. I'm just going to complain just for a minute about I don't like the stamp cases. I don't like them. I can't help it. But I love that color, so I had to buy it. I can't wait till they someday change those up. All right, so I'm just going to take my tri-blend markers, and now is when I'm going to dot into those berries. And I'm also going to do a little bit on this red just to make it pop. Let me show you the before and after of that. So you can see like that red planter, it really does bring in just a little extra brightness to that planter. Now I could go over it with the lighter red and play with it some more, but there's really no point. The other color that I brought in is Alpine Green, and I usually use the darkest color, but I am gonna I like to add just a little marker highlight where I want extra shading. I could totally do this with my pencils. Just add more, right? Anyway, we're done. We're done with those images. That did not take very long. And you can see that assembly line style, you could really finish these pretty quickly. Now I want some dimension to these, but I don't want them so dimensional that I can't mail them. And so I got into my stash, people, and this is my scrap pile. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut pieces and parts to make this a little bit popped off the page. And you probably think I'm absolutely out of my mind doing this, but when you have as many scraps as I have, oh my gosh, after a while, it's just overwhelming, and you need to start doing something to use these up. And this is a great use as opposed to what I was going to do. I was going to totally dump the bag and start over. So, all right, while I'm doing this, I'm going to read some comments. Christy, you've shop for yourself. Oh my gosh, you and me both, girl. The sales have been amazing. And my husband, I'll tell you what, after my mom died, the gift giving changed a lot for me, being all selfish and stuff. But honestly, it's like nobody knows how to get you better gifts than somebody who loves to gift, right? And so my husband, he's more the kind that's like, he'll get me anything I want. He doesn't care how much it costs or how many hoops he has to go through or whatever to get it. But I'm not going to be surprised. He has to know, like, okay, you go here, here's the deal, here's where I buy this. This is what I want. And it's nice to have someone like that. Yeah. Heather, you're funny. Use up your yellow. But why not, right? Okay, and now I'm going to put these on top of my crumb cake. And I'm just going to center that. Now, you're probably wondering what I'm going to do with those two marks. Honestly, when that happens, I usually just use like gems or something. I don't sweat that too much. Like I said, if somebody complains about the card I make, they don't get another, right? Okay, we're ready to assemble. Final assembly. And Noelle says she got a new purse. I love that. I got out my purse for the first time like Sunday. I haven't used a purse in probably a year because I just carry my wallet. So any kind of device, any kind of thing, scoreboard, cutting board, this is a mini Misty, but if you can put your card into the corner of your Misty like that, it helps you to know where to put this bottom piece against the edge. Now, this is not stuck down. You don't want to glue this down. But what this does is it helps you keep it nice and straight so that when you put this on, it'll be in the right spot. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to nicely glue the top and the bottom of this arch. And then I'm just going to put this down somewhat centered, as centered as I can think about it being. And liquid glue is great because you can wiggle it in wherever you think it needs to be, which is great. And there's that one. So there's one. And then I like to flip it open and make sure you don't have any glue gushing out of each side. And sometimes if you didn't get enough glue like close to the edge, sometimes you need to put a little extra glue there just so your card doesn't fall apart or come apart. This glue is pretty heavy duty. I don't usually worry about it too much. So, all right. And now we're going to do that to card number 2. And we're going to put that down. We're going to do the same thing. I'm batch making cards, which is really great. And then I'm just going to lay that down. Make sure that's in the corner. Make sure that looks good. Just like that. Okay, so now we're done with our Misty. Now, all we have left is the decoration. Now, I really like the inside of this card because of that space to put a message. And I could totally do, and on the ones where I didn't, the ones where the background wasn't white, you know, I thought I'd use this image. I really like it, but I didn't make enough of them for all of my cards. So I thought, I'm just going to stamp on the inside of my card. And then if it gets screwed up, I can put one of those others on top of it, right? So I'm just going to use my message, make sure it's inked up pretty well. May the magic of Christmas fill each corner of your home and heart. There's one. I think that looks pretty good. And there's 2. All right. Message is done. Now, let's decorate, right? Let's decorate. So I made a whole bunch of these bows. let's see here. I'm going to zoom out a little more. I made a whole bunch of these little bows, and I went ahead and put them together. I kept a couple of them not put together just so I could show you this and this, you know, layers on top of each other, and then the little square goes on to the top. So it's like 3 pieces. And I just did these assembly line on my little silicone piece, so I didn't care. And I thought about putting a bow here. I thought that was really cute, but I changed my mind and decided to put it on the inside. And so I'm gonna put it here instead. I think that's beautiful. And you can see I made enough for a bunch of extras because I'm going to be making tags. I like when I have extra little parts and pieces. Okay, so there's the inside. I love that, right? Now on the outside, I think what I want to do is use those holly leaves, and I'm just gonna put one here, grab another, put one here, and again, get that assembly line thing going. It really does help. Oh, look, that took care of one of my lines. It won't probably take care of my other line. Maybe. All right, now the berries, I'm just gonna 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm gonna get my little pickup tool and put them in place. So there's one. Don't worry about the glue squishing out. Don't worry about it. It won't matter. But this is a great way to assembly line cards, right? Because you just do them, do them, do them. I'm going to take my message to you and yours. And I like that down at the bottom. And that's basically it. Now, it could use a little zhuzh, a little something, right? And so I like to use my white gel pen to, you know, put a few little highlights on. And so for this, I'm going to bring this up to show you. I'm going to put a dot on each of the berries, like it's a highlight. I'm going to put a highlight on the flame. Not that you'll see it. And then up here, especially after the glue is dry, you can fill in with a little white on the berries there. You could even put gems on these berries because, you know, it'll look really cool that way. The other place you could put a little highlight is on the little planter. Now I'm just getting ridiculous though. I could go crazy all day with this and with the shimmer pen and all of that. I could just go crazy. But these turned out really sweet, and it uses almost all of the rest of my papers. Here's my batch. I made a whole bunch of them because I really think that this is a card that's really simple to duplicate. This style is simple to mass produce, but it's special in the way that it opens. It's obviously handmade. It's not something I purchased. And yeah, like Noelle said, those little touches really make a difference. The other thing that you could do on here, if you just can't stand much more, you could put little stickle dots like ornaments hanging, or you could use gems. You know, your choice. But that is with the Rustic Centerpiece. And look how big that is compared to the image. My goodness. I had to use like the 2 largest sizes, I think, of the arches practically. I think I used, like if you count from the inside, I used number 2 and 3. But I think I could have used a bigger one. I just didn't want to cover up my pretty paper, right? It's so cool looking. So I hope you guys like this. I really think this is special. And I will see you all Friday, unless something weird happens. Bye-bye.